Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
My belief is that India is going through right now the renaissance of entrepreneurship and the democratization of doing something on your own. In our last 1000 years of history, we have not seen this era. When industrial revolution was happening, India was primarily an agrarian society. A lot of development happened in the western part of the world since World War I, but we were not even an independent country. And last several decades, India has produced a lot of new wealth, but primarily in the service industry. But last 10 years, in my view, has changed, and India is now producing a lot of product-based, platform-based, technology-based, new generation companies. And all these companies are created by people like you and I. Just to give you context, internet or digital economy, for which I'm part of, I'm very proud of creating two large companies in that field in this country where I did not live majority of my adult years. Internet was, as you know, became a public domain in 1994. So it's roughly give and take, roughly 25 years old industry. It has created roughly $6 trillion in new wealth in United States alone. That would be the value of Google, Amazon, Facebook, Uber. I'm not even including Apple and Microsoft or IBM, Cisco, HP, etc. in that. I'm only talking pure play internet companies. Roughly $6 trillion in new wealth, all in last 25 years. China has created close to $1.5 trillion in new wealth in last 15, 18 years. In my view, when China internet revolution picked up, China was probably 8 to 10 years behind United States, may not be that behind anymore. In fact, in many ways, will be ahead of United States when it comes to consumer internet. I landed in this country after spending 15 years in Silicon Valley in end of 2011 to start Shopclues. That time, the value of public and private companies from the internet sector was roughly $2 billion. That was the value of Make My Trip, Naukri.com, Flipkart, Snapdeal, and a few more. In fact, 70-80% companies do not even exist anymore. So that was $2 billion. That time, India had 80 million internet users, maybe 10 million, 15 million mobile phone users. 2 million people bought something online. An entire e-commerce industry, which was 17-year-old that time, had 200 million, had reached $0 to $200 million in 17 years. But one thing I would say, there are three things common for the people who created $6 trillion wealth in the United States, $1.5 trillion in China. These are the two large internet markets globally. There are three things common. One is, none of those entrepreneurs were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Second is, they all came from a typical middle class upbringing, which I'm assuming most of us here belong to. Third, there was emphasis on education. While most of them were dropout, but there was an emphasis on education. These were the three things common. And look at from last 600 years in modern history of economics, never ever this level of wealth creation, social transformation, opportunity occurred. That same opportunity is available to each one of you in this room. And so it's the first time in the past. I come from a generation where India still motivated, or the role models were either cricketer or a Bollywood actor or a real estate person or a politician, right? India did not produce local heroes which could give you encouragement that if he can do it, so can I. And I feel that human beings have so much of resilience, perseverance. Once they know something is possible, the likelihood of achieving goes up. And that's what has happened in last 10 years, from Sachin Bansal to Benny Bansal to Kunal Bahal to Vijay Shekhar Sharma, you name it. This country has now produced the local heroes whom you and I can relate to. And after that, whatever you build or whatever you don't build, it's only one person, and that's you. And my job today here is to help you encourage to remove that person and unleash your entrepreneurial dream. I grew up in Chandigarh, and in my early 20s, I came here for my master's. And then I worked for a few years back home in Chandigarh and went for my MBA to United States and ended up working with world's largest online stock brokering firm called Charles Schwab in San Francisco. And I worked there for 3-4 years. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So when I went to US for my MBA, US was going through the dot-com boom, the first ever dot-com boom, where every company was doubling its market cap every day, right? In 2.5 years, a company will go public. 4 years later, their stock will have quadrupled, which has never happened in the last 175 years of capital markets. And I felt very frustrated that I'm in the business school paying for an expensive MBA at a very wrong time. I should be outside, trying my hand with one of those internet startups. When I completed my first year of my MBA, AOL acquired Time Warner. It was not like Time Warner acquiring AOL. AOL acquired Time Warner in $165 billion, the largest ever known acquisition to mankind. So I used to feel very, very frustrated that I'm in a business school at a very wrong time. By the time I graduated, I was very excited that maybe I will try my hand, although I picked up a job because I had a student visa and I was not allowed to be entrepreneur. Before even I graduated and got my diploma, the dot-com bust happened. And that time I felt like being in school rather than in the job market. I ended up joining Charles Schwab. It had 26,000 employees. And I was evidently Indian among a very, very less diversified crowd. I was 18 months in the United States. I had a thick Indian accent. I looked differently. And I had never worked in that country. And I literally used to check every day in the evening what is a one-way flight price for New Delhi from San Francisco, because I was almost sure I'm going to lose my job. And I lived in fear for 2 years. Everyone I knew in that company was let go. 2 years later, that company had 14,000 employees, down from 26,000. But somehow, I got lucky. They never fired me. Maybe my salary was too low. Maybe I was working much harder than others. But I was never let go. Then, market started getting better. When market started getting better, again an entrepreneur in me woke up. And I thought maybe I should start something now. And as I thought about doing something, I came to know I'm becoming a father first time. So all of a sudden, my risk appetite did go down. And I said, okay, maybe it's fine. I'm not a 19-year-old college dropout, so it's okay. It does not matter if I don't end up doing something at 26, maybe I'll do it at 28. So one reason or another, but all of a sudden I found out I have now worked for 12 years after my MBA, worked with 7 different companies, was very, very fortunate to work with 4 Fortune 100 companies in their headquarters in the United States, and also happened to work with Bill Gates very closely at Microsoft and learned a lot. But still, I would always have a full-time job and a current active business plan and a logo and a financial model and some PowerPoint. So that means I was still inquisitive, I was restless, I was unhappy in many ways. Career-wise, I could not complain. I worked with Charles Schwab, then I moved to Microsoft in their corporate headquarters in Seattle. Then I came back in San Francisco, ended up becoming one of the Wall Street analysts, covered companies like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Netflix, had an opportunity to hang around, meet on a daily basis, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, you name it. So life was great, but still, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So in 2010, Make My Trip becomes first mainstream consumer internet company to be listed on NASDAQ. You know, Naukri.com is listed in Mumbai and Hong Kong, and there was no other major large company which was an internet company listed in USA. So Make My Trip became first online travel company from India to be listed on NASDAQ. And I was covering very large companies like Google, Yahoo, Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, etc. as an analyst, and Make My Trip was a tiny company. But somehow in an entrepreneur in me, I thought that maybe this company will help me to stay in touch what is happening in India in consumer internet, which is essentially nothing. So I ended up launching a research coverage on Make My Trip. I came to India and met Deep Karda, the founder of Make My Trip, and a few more companies. On my way back to San Francisco, I realized that e-commerce is a 17-year-old industry in India, but for all practical purposes, it looks like new industry. I also realized that maybe the Walmart of India is not going to be Walmart Corporation, it's going to be an online company. And that online company has to be a marketplace, because India is all about tail end. India is very fragmented markets, from the highly standard categories such as mobile phone to a non-standard categories such as clothing, shoes and accessories. No 10 players account for 70-80% of the market. So because of this fragmentation, running an inventory-led model appeared to me very difficult. And with that idea, I reached to a stage where I said the regret of not doing something of my own in that country will be bigger than anything I give up. So that's my lesson number one to you guys is, if you find yourself at a place where because of your passion, because of your energy, because of your eccentricities and obsession, where you really want to do something on your own, and if you can answer this, the regret of this will be bigger than anything I give up. I think God is very kind to you, and nobody will be able to stop you. So anyhow, I had a very high stake game. I used to make $1 million per year as a Wall Street analyst, lived on a beautiful place on the mountains. Life was great. Unlike Delhi, San Francisco is not a polluted city. And I ended up coming here because I reached to a stage where I knew the regret of not doing Shopclues will be bigger than anything I give up. So I came here. I convinced 4 more people to come with me. Like me, they were Indian, living in Silicon Valley, again, with not silver spoon in their mouth, typical middle class background, educated. So they all came. Most of them, like me, did not live in this country for 15 to 20 years. Shopclues was the 35th e-commerce company. And within first 2 years, we became the 4th largest. And today, India has roughly 22 unicorns in the new age, right? For context, China has around 184, USA has around 275 unicorns from the new age economy. I feel very excited that within 4th year, I got lucky and happened to create India's 5th unicorn and in the 4th year of operation, choosing a highly crowded category as well as very late in the game. So with that leads to me my second lesson for you guys is that remember, fortune follows the brave. So if you want to mitigate your risk, you want to have your cake and eat too, I don't think entrepreneurship is for you. So at the end of the day, I kept on mitigating risk in my life. Student visa, becoming father first time, becoming father second time, then making $1 million, very comfortable life, big house, and versus India. But when I had to do it, I had to give up everything. I had to put all my eggs into one basket. First time in 15 years, it was very overwhelming to buy a one-way ticket to India. And being in Delhi, which I was not particularly very fond of, and starting a company. When I moved here, within first week, I turned the TV on, and there was a big advertisement coming for Flipkart. And a lot of companies, I'm not sure even you have heard about, Infibeam, Fashion and You, Traders. And I remember when I watched some of those ads, I literally went to bathroom and threw up. I felt like giving up. I said, maybe I signed up on something wrong. That time I remember Flipkart had raised $150 million. Fashion and You, the company maybe most of you have not heard, had raised $60 million from Sequoia. And there's so many other companies. And I had raised $1.9 million from 15 of my friends, literally some friends. And taking the money for your venture from friends is probably among the toughest thing you will ever do. But literally, a year later, we had already surpassed maybe most other, out of those 35 companies, maybe 28 of them. And by second year, we were clearly at number 4. And fourth year, as I mentioned, it became the 5th unicorn. So that's how I did it. And again, just to sum up so far, one is at a macro level. At a macro level, I truly believe India is going through the renaissance of entrepreneur revolution. From industrial revolution to the gold rush in California, to the rise of United States after World War I, rise of Japan after World War II, rise of China in last 4 decades, and whatever is happening in this country, I would say are the largest modern history man-made wealth creation opportunity. And each one of you are honestly equal participant on that. So I truly hope, rather than being a spectator, you participate in this. Right? When there was a gold revolution happening in California, I don't know how many of you are aware, which really became the basis of the almighty dollars that time, because US found this newly minted very large gold reserve. And this was 1850. 150,000 people across globe moved in search of gold. And only 7% of those people who moved found gold. So only 10,000 people found gold. That's a separate story that Levi's or a lot of food brand and hotel brand also came, because when people moved there, they needed a place to stay, they needed clothes to wear, and they needed food to eat. So a lot of other companies got created, very similar to how in e-commerce revolution, a lot of payment delivery and other logistics companies got created. So a lot of companies got created, but only 7% people found gold. There was one thing common among those 7% people. They were all in California for the gold. They were not in New York, they were not in London, they were not in New Delhi. Similarly, this country is going through that gold rush. And I don't want to have only a wealth as a reason to motivate you, but perhaps it's one of them. This country is going through the gold rush, and you are here. So if you participate, there's no guarantee, but 7% of you perhaps will get a lot of gold. So, so another lesson for you is you have to be part of whatever is happening. If you don't manage yourself, there's an old saying that high tide takes every boat up. So if you manage to be part of this, you will still end up getting gold. You will be part of the gold rush. And if you don't participate, then you know the outcome. I was mentioning earlier that when I came here in end of 2011, the market value of all the public and private internet companies was roughly 2 billion. It is already 75 billion now, which would be the value of from Flipkart to Swiggy, Zomato, Paytm, and Oyo, and Revigo, and you name it. Right? So it's already 75 billion. I do not know whether I have a magic wand to predict the future, but if China and USA are the precursor to what can happen in this country, I feel by 2025, this country can create $500 billion in new wealth. So while it has gone from 2 billion to 75 billion in last 8-9 years, the 425 billion is completely untapped opportunity. Whether you do it or someone else, but this opportunity will not come back again. This era will not come back again. This is the first time in India's history there is a complete democratization of entrepreneurship, and I will highly encourage you to start thinking about it. And if you have one of those undying desire that you want to do something on your own, just take a plunge. High tide is here, and when the high tide comes, it takes every boat up. There's an old Wall Street saying, it's better to be lucky than smart. But for luck, you still have to be part of it. Remember that gold rush? If you really wanted a gold, but you were not in California, even luck would not help you. So luck will also help you only when you participate. So just take a plunge, because honestly this time will not come. And again, wanted to remind you that it's the first time, literally you can peel down the onion and look at the history. It's the first time in this country you can create wealth, deep social transformation, a product which can be truly global. You don't need to be born with silver spoon in your mouth. You don't need to come from a special last name. You don't need political connection. And you can pretty much build a cerebral career to create a very deep social and economic transformation for yourself and your surroundings, and can end up earning a lot of pride. So, those would be some of my lessons